Welcome back once again to Raining Cats and Dogs, you guys. We appreciate you joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. We got a good one for you this evening. We got a couple coaches entering postseason play, and then on the total opposite note, we got a coach who's in total off-season mode. This evening, we'll be first joined by Truman women's basketball coach Theo Dean. The Bulldogs go to UMSL's campus, University of Missouri St. Louis's campus, for the quarterfinal game in the GLVC versus Drury at 2:15 on Friday afternoon. If anybody listening to this is in the St. Louis area, make it out. Show Coach Theo Dean and his girls some support in the opening round of that tournament. Later on, we'll be joined by Duke Cochran, head men's soccer coach for Truman State University, as they look ahead to the 2026 campaign coming up this fall. And then later on, to end the show, we will speak with Kirksville head basketball coach, boys basketball coach Aaron Coombs, as his team approaches district. One thing that I would like to add to this program, and this was brought to my attention by a dedicated viewer of the show, you know who you are, I appreciate it greatly. Another thing I would be remiss not to mention, especially as we enter postseason time, is that the Kirksville girls will also be in action this week in their district. They open with the winner of Fulton and Hallsville. They're the 1 seed in a district with 5 teams, so they get a bye. They will open with the winner of Fulton and Hallsville on Wednesday at 6. That's in Moberly. If they win, they will move on Friday also at 6 for the district championship to face the winner of Mexico and Moberly. Should they win there, their sectional game would be next Monday in Columbia. Just wanted to keep up some shop with the viewers of this show. Theo, welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it greatly. Theo, coming off of last week's wins, we'd spoken about this after the Jewel win on Saturday. This is the first time with this group that they had been in a position where they knew that no matter the outcome, you would have a GLVC tournament berth. These were not do or die games this past week. And another thing we spoke about, it's great to have a home game Thursday and then one of the simplest road trips in the conference on Saturday to round things out. How are you guys feeling?
Pretty good. We've had just a lot of talks with our players over the last couple days, just talking about mindset, heading into this week. So many of them haven't been in this position before. You look at our 2 captains have never played in postseason. Lexi and Mal were both hurt last year. Caitlin Odom, another returner for us, started last year as a freshman, didn't know what she was doing. Now she's going in as a leader and a veteran in the guard position for us. So we've had a lot of talks with our leaders, our captains, just about mindset. Had a lot of talks, watching film with the team. And just getting them to just visualize the moment, visualize the plays they need to make, visualize the mistakes that they made and how to improve on them. But also we've been starting to cook up some tweaks to some things, that our players are wanting to change, and that honestly, they're 100% correct in things we need to change, if we really want to make this push to win 3 games in 3 days.
And the win versus Indy on Thursday and the win versus Jewel. In the Indy game at one point in time, you led by 16, and the Jewel game you led by 19. One thing that you said after the Jewel game that I liked a lot is maybe a little bit of that adversity of teams coming back against you, but just staying the course does prepare you for March a little bit. Is that something you and your girls have talked about?
Absolutely. In our meeting with our captains earlier, I told them, that, yes, you would have loved to end the week with 2 convincing wins, 2 20 to 30 point wins. However, when you get to March, winning by 20 plus is not normal. And it would actually, in my opinion, have set us up for a failure. If we had 2 of those really just 20 or 30 just dominant wins, because it gets you kind of in the mindset of like, oh, it's going to be easy. And I will tell you, as much as we all and my players all enjoyed the 2 wins we had, we weren't satisfied. We were actually a little bit disappointed with both of those wins. So they're hungry going into this week, going into practice, just the preparation, the mental side of things. And for us to be in those moments and have to execute late, have to get stops late, but also have to respond late. When you're tired physically, you're tired mentally, step up and hit big free throws in both of those games. That's what March is all about. Being in a moment in which either you're supposed to upset a team or not get upset, being able to make plays no matter what and just focus on you.
one thing you talk about hitting free throws coming down the stretch. The end of the Indy game, McCallum hits all 4 of those free throws and keeps. What really goes into that as far as from a coaching perspective, that final 45 seconds, that final 30-second push, that's going to be crucial for you guys in March if you want to win 3 in a row.
Remembering the loss the second game of the year. We were in the clutch game, second game of the year for, because of us, that game we missed 6 or 7 layups, missed 12 free throws. If I'm not mistaken, you get to the end of the game, you got to make 1 or 2 free throws and you miss them and then you end up losing. So really it's a reflection of that, being in that moment. And what I told our girls after that game is, yes, it's disappointing to lose any game. It's disappointing to, work as hard as you can and come up short. However, I told them, you don't figure out how to win clutch games until sometimes you lose them. And I actually, in the locker room yesterday, wrote down all of our clutch wins, which for viewers, if you don't know, clutch wins are considered a game within 5 points, under 5 minutes. We're 7-3 in those games this year. And they had not realized that we had played that many clutch games. So we were able to show them like, hey, you've done it. You've responded to that first loss, what was it, November 15th. And you've stepped up and made some big plays, hit some big free throws, whatever the case may be. And I think just the confidence that we can win those games because we've been in those moments and luckily have won in those moments, it allows us to step up and just drop our shoulders and just shoot another free throw.
Moments like that from a coaching perspective, like you mentioned, November seems like so very long ago, but looking at a season as a full body of work and how these girls have grown together. And like you mentioned, you had to point it out to them that you are 7-3 in these situations. It's something they wouldn't have realized. From a coaching perspective, just taking everything into account in the 2025-26 season, like just what goes into that? What are the things that you specifically and your staff look for?
Yeah, for us, if you look at the season as a whole, you bring in 9 new players, you return 6 in which only 1 played the full season last year. 2 unfortunately had injuries and the other 2 redshirted. And then, you also have a situation in which, it's a lot of new. Just in general, new in regards to the transfers coming in, the freshmen coming in, things we changed in regards to our preseason, our lifting and our conditioning, but also things we changed in regards to our offense, things we changed in regards to our defense. And for our players and the staff, as we've talked about it several times, one thing we can be proud of is that our players bought in from day one. They bought into everything we told them this season would be like, and they produced and more. We told them we wanted to win together. I know you've heard me say this countless times. We wanted to play together. We were going to win together. We're going to lose together. We're going to do everything together. And I told them that I wanted to play 9 or 10 players, 10 minutes plus. And we did it. And it was something that we hadn't done before. So for us, understanding that what we wanted to do worked, but we haven't accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. So there's still more to do. There's still more work to do. There's still an extra push you can make, an extra sprint, an extra shot you can get up throughout the week. There's still more that you can do, more film that I can watch. All these different things that go into play because we do it together. No person is bigger than the other, but if one person doesn't do their job, then it takes away from everybody else.
Look ahead to this weekend a little bit for me. One thing that I love about the GLVC and the caliber of women's basketball in GLVC is everybody is pretty intimately familiar with everybody else. Third meeting with Drury, first meeting early December. You guys lost by 4 at home, and then last month, 12-point game, a couple of games that you guys would like to have back, but you got a lot to draw from there.
Yeah.
Look specifically ahead to your Friday afternoon opponent.
Yeah, we're excited. Anytime you get a chance to play in March, it's an exciting time. You definitely are grateful for that opportunity. Anytime you get to lace up your shoes in the month of March, and for us facing Drury, I think it's going to be a great game. We're definitely familiar with them. I'm familiar with Coach Bailey, as going back to her time at Quincy. So, I think it's going to be a matchup in which players are going to come out hungry. Players are going to come out with something to prove. But more than anything, you're going to see really good offense. Like, we're both really good offensive teams. I think that game is going to come down to, of course, some shot making, but I think more than anything, it's going to come down to who is going to sit down and play defense the most, who is going to step up and take charges the most, or box out and get rebounds the most. It's going to come down to the intangibles, in my opinion, when you look at this game coming up. And for our players, they're really excited. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel, with how long the season is. Sometimes you get to December, sometimes January, and you're just ready to get to March. And I could tell you January took forever to get through, and February flew, and now we're here. So, for our players, we're going to see if the work they put in paid off. We're going to see how confident they really are, because March is just about getting lucky, staying healthy, doing the little things, and being confident. That's what it all comes down to. So I'm excited for our players to get this opportunity, and we're excited to play some really good basketball.
One thing that I really loved, that speaking with Lexi White after the win at Jewel on Saturday, one thing that I really loved is, more than anything, she just said that this group of girls isn't ready to be done yet. We want to be playing basketball for a couple more weeks. And that's, I think, from a coaching standpoint, one of the most encouraging things you could probably hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I told them after the game, I said, they're too much fun for me to coach for us to be done. Like, this is one of the most fun groups I've ever coached. I love coaching this group. They're so smart. They want to be good, which sounds crazy, but you'd be surprised how many players and teams get to the college level and already think they're good and don't do the work. Like, our players want to be good, and because of that, they do the extra work. They watch the extra film. They run the extra mile, all those different things. So for us, I told them, I said, I'm not done. Like, I can't be done coaching you guys. This is too much fun for me. Selfishly, I want to just keep doing it and coach you guys for as long as I can.
Highlight some of these girls that we haven't really talked about on this program. Freshman out of Lee's Summit High School has a career high, goes for 26. That's pretty cool stuff. And I don't think we've mentioned her name. Just, talk about some of these girls and the progress that they've made over the course of the season.
Oh, man, there's been so much progress. And, the beauty of our team is that I think we've had 9 kids score 10 points or more throughout the season. And one of them is Avery Roush, freshman for us. It comes in just a cerebral player, just really understands the game of basketball, understands things on both sides, and understands it at a high level, like at a level like that most freshmen don't. She doesn't need a lot of things repeated. She doesn't need to go through a lot of reps. She just gets basketball. What people don't know is, well, I guess you would if you watch us, she leads the team in blocks, which you would think, as small as we are, is like, this kid's going to lead you guys in blocks. Well, yeah, her junior year in high school, she was goalie of the year. So her hands are really good. She just reads the ball really good. She understands timing and all those different things. This has been really cool to watch her just grow and thrive and learn. Started a couple games early on in the season, and then we moved her back to the bench, and she's had all of her career highs off the bench. And she's been just fun. She's a Kansas fan, so Coach Lex gives her crap, coming from Mizzou and everything. So it's a lot of fun to get to coach her, and it's been cool just to watch her grow. Kennedy Rutherford, another freshman for us. She unfortunately has battled some injuries just throughout the year, just, some nagging things. But I think one thing you've seen with her is that she can shoot the heck out of the ball. I think she leads us in 3-point percentage. If you look at that rank, she's around that 43-44% range from the 3-point line. She's grown a lot defensively. She was starting to play some of her best basketball when we got to like that Christmas break range when we went over to Marquette. That was probably some of the best defense, one-on-one and even team defense that she played all season. Came back, unfortunately, had a quick injury as soon as we got back, but she's someone that stays in the gym. She's in the office with us watching film and understands the little things. She's a state champion as well from her junior year in high school, so she understands winning. She understands the little things that go into it there. So we've talked about Morgan Miller, of course, but of our 3 freshmen, I thought it was very important to highlight those other 2 that are integral to where we are, whether it's on the court in those 40 minutes or on the court in practice time, pushing people and making them work.
The next handful of days ahead of the conference tournament, what are, we've talked about this before on the program too. If we get in and get what we need done, this is an hour and a half of your guys' time and you go about your day. But, at the end of a long season, ahead of a conference tournament, what do the next handful of days of practice look like?
Just that, get in there for an hour, 15, hour and a half. Wednesday we'll hit it pretty hard. We'll probably take Wednesday lifting golf, which they would like. But we're going to hit it pretty hard in practice, with just the competition piece, because at the end of the day, I can't expect you to show up and give me 40 minutes up and down on Friday if the last time you went up and down was last Saturday. Like that doesn't help. We've given them their rest. We've done the mental rep piece of watching film and different things like that. But they understand when we get to practice on Wednesday, get after it, get in, get better, get out. That's the idea there. And we have some philosophy things we're going to tweak and just some wrinkles we're going to add in to some of the things that we do. Situational things we need to start walking through because it's extremely important. You never know what situation you're going to be in. So being prepared for all those different things, whether it's ATOs or board to court type stuff and all those different things, like putting them in those moments, in a confined time frame in practice is something that we did a couple months ago and we need to get back to doing. They've executed well in games, don't get me wrong. But for some of them, like mixing up lineups, as you've seen that the last couple of weeks, lineups that we hadn't seen all year have been playing together. So we've been starting to mix that up a little bit more in practice over the last couple of weeks as well. So really just tricking their minds and to where they can still grow, kind of like muscle confusion when you're in the weight room, you tweak things in the weight room to get your body to still grow. It's the same thing here, just tweaking their minds, throwing things at them still, so they can still be in the mindset and the point where they can focus to still like grow mentally to be able to grow and produce athletically.
One last thing for you before I let you go, Coach. You mentioned just the different avenues of scoring that you guys have throughout the entire lineup. All of those permutations, all those combinations of different lineups that you have. I mean, they feel organic. There isn't one in particular that looks like, no, these five don't belong on the court to, alongside one another. And this is something we've spoken about a number of times, but just the level of trust that these girls have with one another. Have you witnessed that develop in real time, talking about it being a long season?
Absolutely. We've ended games with different people on the floor just about every time we've ended a game. You look at the SBU game, I can't remember what we started down in the fourth quarter, but I know we were down 8 with about 5 minutes left. The group that was in before that kind of got it down to 8, and then the group we ended with is the group that took it from 8 to a 3 or 4 point win. We're just completely different lineup. People in the game that had never been in close games or been in tough moments and different things like that. Same with the S&T game. We ended that fourth quarter with a group that had literally never been on the floor together. So for us, it's the trust that we've been trying to show that we have in them to just be in the moment and produce. Whatever the game, or something we've told them all year is like, don't try to force anything. Whatever the game needs, it'll tell you. So understanding that and trusting that if you're on the floor, it's for a reason, and you'll figure it out. You'll figure out what that reason is. It might not be to score. It might be to get a defensive stop. It might be to be in a gap. It might be to get a box down and have someone go over the back and put us in the bonus. And now imagine in Lexia, whoever can step up to the free throw line for the next 2 or 3 minutes because you did that one little thing in there. So it's just trust that we hope by now they would have in us, but also trust that we've tried to show them that we have in them, and it allows them to get out there and just play freely. That's the most important thing. I want my players to play. I don't want them to think.
Thank you, Coach Dean. Coach Theo Dean, since the last time you were on the program, Theo Dean is now the record holder for wins as head coach for the Truman State University women's basketball program. A huge congratulations on that for standing alone in that regard.
Thank you.
If anybody listening to this, again, if you guys are in the St. Louis area and you don't have much going on Friday afternoon, 2:15 on UMSL's campus, the Bulldogs will tip off in the 6th-seeded Bulldogs will tip off against the 3rd-seeded Drury Panthers in the quarterfinal opening round of the GLVC tournament. Theo, thanks again for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Joined now by Truman State University men's head soccer coach Duke Cochran. Duke, friend of the program, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being here this evening.
Not a problem.
Handful of weeks ago, we were really getting into the thick of things when we were talking about recruiting and just the cycle. You know, obviously this is an imperative time of year for really everybody once you get into the mid part of February, and now we're kind of in crunch time as we hit on early March. As we were talking about a handful of minutes ago, you are on to some young student athletes who you guys would like to bring into the program. Just talk a little bit about how the trail has been in that regard.
I think we were really fortunate off the bat to get 4 transfers at semester. A couple guys that knew some of our players and played in the summer. 2 from East Central Community College, and then another one from Kansas City, Rockhurst, and then another West Virginia Wesleyan, North Virginia Wesleyan. He's a St. Louis kid that wanted to come back closer to home, but in a young team, it was nice to get some guys that are coming in with some maturity. They're young men already, so I think that'll help for a competition in spots and just to help us when we play these other teams that have 23-year-olds, 25-year-olds. So that's been beneficial. And then we do have 6 committed right now, true freshmen. Right now, 1 out of St. Louis, an attacker, an attacking mid out of Wichita. Roman Jameson's the first guy. Luther's a goalkeeper out of Nebraska. Then we've got 2 Kansas City kids, Chris Fannin and Cody Bland. Chris is more of a defender. Cody's an attacker. And then we have a kid from San Diego, Carson Prohl, that our assistant Aiden Bilbao saw at a SLU camp. So that's also been very helpful in having an assistant that's at other camps, getting a look at some of these guys. Jameson, I believe you saw at a Wash U camp. So, yeah, I mean, those are big numbers when you think about it. That's already, 10 guys. And with guys, there's always a late 1 or 2 that show up on the table late March. So we'll see.
Talk a little bit about just, the geographical kind of disparity. A California kid, Nebraska kid, guys from all over the place, and you just kind of find them wherever you find them, whatever camp it might be. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, as a state school, St. Louis and Kansas City are very important for us. Like to get them from those cities, but also it's nice if it's not international. Maybe it's a Texas kid, a California kid that are growing up in states that the soccer is very, very good. So if we can add that flavor to our team that's a little different, I think it's important. Like they want to prove something. They've come a long way. It's been a while since we've had a Nebraska player, goalkeeper. The last one might have been Stephen Wall, who would like to get into the Hall of Fame. He's second all-time, first goalkeeper to go national tournament. So hopefully Luther does those same kinds of things. But yeah, we're still Chicago, big cities we want in and around us. But if we can get California, like I said, Texas, those Floridas, these are some states that have some very, very deep talent.
The year-round component, I'm sure, goes a long way for the warm weather states.
Absolutely.
And so just talk about, in the winter months, states where some of these young men are still able to, participate year-round. How far does that go for you as a coach?
I mean, for us to participate?
Well, I mean, how far does it go to be able to kind of pinpoint these guys who can get outdoors every month of the year?
I think it takes having an assistant or connections of coaches that know players or know you, because there's a big recruiting tournament every year in San Diego, and every D1 program is going to be walking around there. So it's pretty hard. You might be picking up scraps at that point, because when the money's at the table, they're not necessary. It's easy to find the talent. It's hard to get the talent. So you need money if you're going to go shopping at those types of things. But camps like SLU, they're going to be attracting all kinds of talent that want to try to be D1. So I think Aiden Bilbao being able to do that, it's huge. That opens up your recruiting so much and just what you might come across.
What goes into the transfer side of things for you guys? And just how, finding transfers and just the way that the NCAA has changed and accessibility to transfers. Talk about those four young gentlemen and their quest to find you and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, the portal's a great spot or space to find talent. But again, you're going to need money to grab the top talent. You also need your due diligence to find out why these people are jumping ship, where are they going, what's happened, is this the first time? Is it the second time? There's a lot that needs to go into that. I don't think we have a lot of people jumping. We had a guy go to Rockhurst, but it's because we didn't have an MBA and he went into the portal. These teams like Rockhurst might have 70 players, and you think about that, they don't have American football, so you're going to have them actually carrying more students for the university maybe, but they have JV teams, reserve teams that are going out and playing. So those guys are going to maybe jump in portals. So these guys that jumped in the portals, well, two were junior college kids. So we picked those guys up because they played with some of our guys this last summer in a new college league. And they were really good players with that team and liked what these guys were doing. And kudos to Truman for if you're an American player and you get your associate's degree, it's half the tuition. If I could get that to the international, then we could really start to change some things. But I'll take what I can get when I can get it.
Certainly.
So two of them, very good players, I think, that will see some time and cause some problems for other teams.
You mentioned one thing that we were joking about a handful of minutes ago. We had Coach Cannon on the program a handful of weeks ago talking about the women's side of things and the women's side of recruiting. One thing that you mentioned is just seems like young men are just a little bit slower. It's a little bit more challenging for them to be receptive.
I mean, as men in this room, I think it's easy to go, okay, we are the slower side of things. We're not in a hurry, so to speak. And sometimes it's because they maybe don't know, or they just waited too long. I'll do it when I get to it kind of thing. So it's always been slower than the women's side, but it is what it is. You're not getting guys committing too early unless they're going big time D1, and they might commit early.
You have, as you mentioned, you've had some pretty good luck with some late commits, though. And so there's a bunch of time left. In your mind, what is kind of the too late as far as the next handful of months go for young prospective athletes?
I would think April, because with school and rosters and just the paperwork that's involved. But I think my rule is always, if they are talented enough and don't come with any problems, and they would fall in what you think is your top 11 to 15, so maybe they could start for you, you got to take a look. And then you have to balance out, is it worth it? Do we need them? Some of them might be that player's going to start for us soon, so grab them now.
Right now, is 10 a number that you are pretty comfortable with, especially with the group that you have, or is there still searching to be done?
Yeah, I don't think as coaches it's ever done, because it might be a center back that you've got some that you like, or a center mid that you're okay with. You think you've got what you need, but a guy just pops up and has a budget. Then you need to find out why. Why is he available? But I think 7 to 10 is always more than enough. I think our roster, we're bringing a lot of guys back. We have 30 guys right now in the spring. So since we didn't do all that great, I think that's a reminder. Send to the team, we need some new energy and we need competition to remind guys you can't rest on it.
The roster guys that you talk about, and even the guys that are coming in, what's your workout regimen like in the spring? What are you guys up to right now?
So right now we're finishing up what is our winter segment, where you can lift and play for 4 hours with the ball. So not a lot going on. Like right now we do Sundays and Wednesdays when we play. We play futsal at least one of the nights. It's a different game with a weighted ball, more of a skillful game. Trying to replicate playing quicker, getting out of tight spaces, being better with the ball. And then for us with 30 guys, the other day's got to be spent 11v11, putting them in spaces that are you looking at? What do you need? What are you trying to fill? Is it that player? Yeah, starting to kind of mesh things together to see what it might look like as we get scrimmages when we come back from spring break.
After spring break, do you guys have a formal like spring game or anything like that you would?
Yeah, you can have 5 play dates, and we start out with Central Methodist University at home on, I want to say that's the 21st March. Is that the Saturday? I'd have to look at a calendar. And then we have Drake, a D1 team, the 28th of March at Drake, and then we're down in St. Louis for MOBAP, East Central, so a JUCO, and an NAI. Then we're back home for Indian Hills, a community college that won the national championship, to play us. So also a recruiting tool. Very good players, lots of internationals.
Very good. And you've already mentioned the value of students entering with an associate's degree for your purposes and getting an opportunity to see a school like Indian Hills where there are resources and talent. How far does that go for you as a program?
It really depends on if they're American or not, because those dollars go a long way for the school. And if they're American and from Missouri in-state as a state school, it really helps your dollars stretch to get good players. But Indian Hills, if they're international, if you can find them and see them with your own eyes and they have a decent budget and they can handle Truman, then it's a win-win. Like, you should be taking a look.
What do you, as a coach, want to see out of those 5 spring meetings? And the 21st and 28th are both Saturdays. You were correct on that. What do you want to see out of those 5 meetings?
With that many players, I want to see everyone play. But I want to see, can we whittle down our top 18, 20, down to 15 to 12-ish, 11? Like, can we find out what our starting lineup could possibly be for next fall? Or is it going to take a recruit? I'd like to see how it gels. I like what I'm seeing so far from the group.
And from just the strength and conditioning end of things, as you talk about being toward the end of the winter segment, what have your student athletes been doing as far as workouts, as far as increasing muscle mass and speed, and how do you hope to see that pay off?
Well, one, I hope every athlete's trying to get stronger, faster. I'll remind my guys, I'd rather see you run 2 miles in under 12 minutes than bench 300 pounds. If you could do both, it'd be great. But we very rarely get those kinds of guys. But so they lift or do plyometric type stuff 3 days a week and play the other 2 days. And we're doing a fitness test on Wednesday. The old Cooper test, 2 miles in 12 minutes, 12 minutes on the clock. How far can you get? We'd like 2 miles. Goalkeepers, we'd like a mile. Well, it's crazy, right? Keepers, I guess, are running up to 2 miles in a game nowadays, which is crazy when you think about it. But so I'd like to see more guys be able to do it, because to me, running is one of those, I don't know how to say, it itself as a coach. If you can break through that mental toughness to not slow down and keep pushing yourself, you become stronger as an athlete, knowing how hard you can push yourself. So for me, I want to see those guys that will push themselves to that point and hopefully break through, find it, and, measure it again later to see what age are you at. We need you tougher.
You think the 4 hour thing, 4 hours with the ball, is that kind of restrictive for what you guys intend to do, or is that about the right amount?
It is, if I'm being honest, gym space or a space would be so much better, like a turf indoor field. But like, that's not just going to happen overnight. Yeah, I think it's enough. I always think it goes back to the game itself. Players need to be playing their sports as much as they can, even on their own, to show that true love of wanting to, one, play the game, but two, to improve on the game itself. And sometimes the game's the best teacher. So that's why we'll play futsal tournaments or we'll play 11v11, because that's the environment they're going to be in. Like, we'll work on getting you better, but we're also at a level where we're trying to choose the best, so it's got to go back to you at some point, summertime, off time when no one's looking, even at school. What are you putting in to make yourself rise?
Coach Duke Cochran, Truman State University men's head soccer coach. 5-game, kind of truncated spring season, I guess you would call it, begins on the 21st of this month.
It's quite.
Which of those are in Kirksville and which are on
March 21st, we're at home against Central Methodist, and then April 18th, we're at home against Indian Hills.
Very good. Coach Cochran, friend of the program, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Joined now by another great friend of the program, Kirksville boys head basketball coach Aaron Coombs. Aaron, very nice to have you this evening.
Thanks for having me back.
We appreciate you joining the program once again. Coombs and the Kirksville boys, by the time of this broadcast, will have played in the opening round of Class 4 District 8 in Fulton against the host on Tuesday night. Kirksville as the 4 seed, Fulton as the 5 seed, to vie for the right to face Mexico on Thursday evening. Kirksville coming off of a pair of big wins last week, posting 58 on senior night against Marshall last week to win by 15, and then defeating Fulton at their place by 25, a rematch of last Friday night's game, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it'll be a completely different game Tuesday than it was this past Friday. Just, Fulton had finished playing 4 games in 5 days. Just a wild kind of, and you could tell they were drained. But I don't want to take anything away from how our kids played, because I thought our kids came out ready to go, and shot the ball great, probably the best we shot it all year. We were 10 of 20 from 3, which I wish we could have more of that. But we made our first 5 shots of that game, which again just kind of gets us going, allows us to set our press, getting our defense and changing up defenses on teams. And then I thought our guys took the challenge of guarding one of the best players in the league, in the Pittman kid. He had earlier that week, he had 37 on Moberly, and we held him to 9. And so credit our guys. They've competed all year, and they've got a chip on their shoulder when it comes to things like that. If we say, hey, look, man, this kid is capable of going off, they'll jump and seize that challenge, and they did it, and we're gonna have to do it again. The kid's good, man. Every time I watch film, he's one of those players where you think that every time he shoots it is going in, and so we're gonna have to be ready to roll tomorrow.
This district is both a blessing and a curse for you. You will play a team that you're very familiar with in Fulton, and then if you win, you'll play a team that you're very familiar with again in Mexico. Just talk about the nature of the conference, kind of filling itself into those district gaps as well, and whatever the case may be, running into a familiar foe.
Yeah, it's a really good league. I'm sad that we're not going to have it, moving forward. But top to bottom, it's a really competitive. Anybody can beat anybody. You saw, Fulton they're the 5 seed. They go to Mexico, I believe, and beat Mexico. And Hannibal beat us. So it's just one of those leagues where top to bottom you have really good players and you have a lot of parity. And then when you look at it from the district side, I've had 2 coaches tell me that people think that in Class 4 we have one of the toughest districts when you throw in Hallsville, and so we're going to, I mean, to be the best, you got to beat the best, you know, and we're going to have to do that, start with Fulton and then, you know, moving on to Mexico. And then, you know, on the other side of the bracket, you got Moberly and Hallsville lurking. So, you know, there's definitely no gimmies in tournament play, especially in March basketball. But just the depth and the level of play has been impressive and fun to compete against.
On the bottom side of that bracket as well, Moberly will face the winner of Hallsville and Wright City. Wright City is a team that I don't know much about. I don't know if you guys have looked at them at all. Very few mutual opponents, if any. So that's kind of a wild card down there. Where do you feel like, coming off of this past week, after I spoke with you on senior night after the Marshall win, it was a much better job than you guys had done 2 weeks ago, and that Chillicothe thing of what you guys do best, turning defense into offense and making it as little of a half-court game as you possibly can. You know, how important is that moving forward now that we're in March for your guys?
Well, it's going to be harder just because, you know, you're playing – every time you win, the teams get better and better and better, you know, and so it'll be tougher to turn these teams over as much as we have in the past. So we're gonna have to rely on our half court defense, which I feel like we're defending well. Both Marshall and Fulton, we kind of backed off the press because we were getting exposed a little bit and committed to sitting down and guarding in the half court, and we were still able to turn teams over. We were still able to make teams take tough contested shots, which led to misses. And now that we've been rebounding well, that allows us to get out and run. So we've kind of substituted the pressing for more of a commitment to rebounding and allowing us to get out and run that way. And so, I mean, that's how we have to win. We have to. Because, you know, shooting 58, 61 hasn't been the norm, you know, for us. But if we can get to those numbers, you know, I feel confident against anybody. But it's going to start on the defensive end by either turning people over or holding them to one and done and allowing us to get out and run.
I really like what you said a handful of moments ago, that several coaches have approached you and just kind of said in private, hey, man, this league's tough. This district is tough. And it forces you to have to adapt and adjust every single night based on who you're playing. Talking about converting maybe a little bit of that energy that you would be using in a full court situation to dedicating it toward rebounding and, you know, just kind of some of those on the fly decisions. Talk a little bit about how crucial that is from a coaching perspective in March.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I would say if there's one area that we've gotten better in the last month, it's been rebounding, especially on the defensive end. You know, Kyle White has been, you know, I love Kyle, and when you look at him, you know, you probably don't think big time rebounder, but he is dominating the glass. I mean, he's averaging just under 9 rebounds a game. You know, Joel Feeney has come in and given us that big wing that rebounds the basketball on both ends, you know, offensive and defensive. And then, you know, like Blake Nesbitt has really stepped up his rebounding. He's, you know, I told Blake, I said, you're the most athletic guy we have, you know, so you've got to pursue the basketball relentlessly. And I try to talk to him a little bit with football lingo, you know, but I mean, he's been good. Jordan Quigley has been giving us some really solid minutes the last 4 or 5 games. Which has helped. So, I mean, just the commitment to rebounding defensively, because I don't have a stat this year, but in recent years, I've tracked our first shot field goal percentage, and it's been incredibly low, which is good. And if I were to track our first shot defense this year, I would think it's in the teens, which is pretty elite. You know, we had the best defense in the conference by far based off points per game. And I would argue a lot of that is because we don't give up very many uncontested shots, and we don't allow a lot of people to score at the rim. So committing to that end of the floor is the way that I want to play moving forward. Our kids have bought into that, and I really believe we're playing our best basketball at the end of the year.
And I think that based on these past 2 results, is that how the locker room feels as well? They feel like they're at their peak at the right time.
I hope so. I mean, I told the guys today, after practice, we had a really good practice today, but I told them, I said, I want you guys just to envision with me here. We came in third in the conference. I would argue our worst game of the year was against Hannibal. And I would argue we had an elite chance to beat Mexico at our place in December. And so we finished third, but winning the league is just a couple of plays away. And so I told the guys, I said, fellas, like, we're a good team. Like, we beat everybody we're supposed to. We're in every game, right? And I promise you, nobody in districts wants to play the Kirksville Tigers. And so you need to go into this week of the playoffs with the utmost confidence, because we've proven that we can beat anybody. We've proven that we're a tough out, and we're playing our best basketball right now, offensively and defensively. So if you're not confident going into districts, then I don't know what else you need, because statistically it's right there.
And I think it speaks for itself. A 16-9 team coming in on the as a 4 seed is there aren't going to be a lot of Class 4 districts that will be able to say that. A team with your pedigree, and like you say, you've beaten everybody you're supposed to beat at least once. Maybe barring that Hannibal game, that's really the only one that I think you'd really like to have taken away. Just talk about from the top of the conference season to now, and what you've learned about the teams that are in the district, and how you guys have adjusted in your second meeting against them versus maybe a third meeting against them.
Yeah, it's one of my goals coming into, conference play. It was just really trying to learn what each program was about and how they like to play, and so most games the second time around, we had some sort of major adjustment for teams, whether even if we won the game. It was just we would put a game plan in place, and it would work or it wouldn't work, but it would work better if we maybe made this tweak, and so being able to play everybody twice and now a third time with some teams has given us a good opportunity to really kind of hone in on tendencies, hone in on how we want to go about attacking you. You still, the better teams like Mexico, Moberly, they have so many weapons, so it puts a lot of pressure on you defensively and tactically when you're trying to put a game plan together. But I love it from the standpoint of, again, I think I would put our conference up against anybody in Class 4, again, top to bottom. We did the all-conference voting today down at Moberly, and just going through the players again and really evaluating them. It's like, man, that kid's good. That kid's really good. This kid's good. And this kid's a freshman, and putting them, so, the league's full of talent. So you've got to show up every night at your best. They've got good coaches at all these schools. And so, but playing teams, to get back to your question, playing teams a second and third time has taken definitely some adjustments to tweak for us. And we're, playing Fulton the third time tomorrow. We're going to make another tweak. Even coming off of a 25-point win, there's some things that we need to clean up and be prepared for the third game.
To your point, talking about trying to put an all-conference team together for the NCMC, first, second, honorable mention. That's a team that you would roll the ball out against anybody. Like, just the first team NCMC team is a team that you would roll the ball out against any other conference in the state, I would think. I guess talk a little bit about that process. I didn't realize that was this afternoon in Moberly. What was the all-conference selection process like for you guys as coaches?
Well, we're not supposed to release until Wednesday.
Sure.
So I can't go into details with that. But, it was so basically what we did was we sat in the room and we talked about the players that we nominated. I nominated 3 guys. I nominated Joel Feeney, Kyle White, and Logan Martin. It comes down, the other coaches vote. You're not allowed to vote for your own players. Let me get that on the record. You're not allowed to vote for your own players. But we put them all on the board, and, we really, got a chance to see see them all in one area, and then each coach talked about what their players do well, the importance of their team, et cetera. And then we sat down and we had a piece of paper. Whoever we thought was the player of the year, we voted at slot 14, and they would get that 14-point value. And then we moved on down. So 14 through 8 is going to be first team, and then 7 through 1 will be second team. I guess they went away with honorable mentions since they lost the team a few years back. But so we sat there and we all voted, and we know who voted for who, and we sat up there on the board and tallied the points, and I think for the most part it's pretty spot on. That first team that comes out on Wednesday is loaded.
Roll the ball out against everybody.
In all age groups, not just senior heavy, but you got seniors, juniors, sophomores, and even a freshman in there. So it's a high caliber league, and I'm glad that our kids are going to be able to get their recognition.
That is kind of awesome for you as a first year guy to kind of go to basically just a summit with these other coaches throughout the league and just kind of prop your own guys up. Does that feel like, did it feel, organic? Everybody is trying to be reasonable while supporting their own kids and propping up their own programs.
Absolutely. I think all the coaches were very, honest in assessing their players. You had a couple coaches say, I nominated this kid. If we don't know who else to vote for, I would appreciate if you could vote for, a senior or something, so I think they were very, very honest and open about, their wishes and realistic about their players. I didn't think there was anybody nominated that's like, I don't know, but as far as sitting in a room with those guys, I've actually enjoyed it. I've done it twice in the last week because we had our district seed meeting last week as well. So to see those guys outside of a competitive environment has been nice for me since I'm the new guy, to open up a little bit with them and, kick back and talk hoops, high school hoops, because that's what I'm learning, so they're talking about this school, and so I'm just trying to soak it all in, and they've been very good to me, so hopefully, moving forward, we'll continue to be able to play each other and have good rivalries, good combative games against each other, while, learning from each other and growing from each other and, working together in the same area.
Ultimately, that's what I was asking you, is just, it's very good to hear that your peers have been supportive of a guy who's trying to get the landscape of this part of the world and high school basketball without a shot clock and all of these kind of things. I'm very glad to hear that. One thing that I have not asked you about on this program, and I would be totally remiss not to talk a little bit, now that they're in hindsight, about your JV and freshman seasons and about the job that Tolton Feeney have done as your assistant coaches. Talk about those two dudes and the JV and freshman seasons.
So I'll start with the freshman. Coach Feeney coached the freshman group, and I thought he did a really good job this year. That freshman team had a really good year, beat some good teams, and a lot of them were moved up after their season ended to JV. And that just speaks a credit to those kids and the job that Coach Feeney's done. And also they lost 2 or 3 games due to sickness or weather, or so they actually kind of got the short end of the stick, and that team was getting better and better and better. So I'm excited about our freshman class. I think there's a potential for a lot of talent. Selfishly, and I will always say this, I do support playing multiple sports, but selfishly, I hope some of those guys stick with basketball more, because their ceilings with basketball is high, and so I'm proud of that freshman group. And Coach Feeney did a really good job coaching them, and man, they loved Coach Feeney. Just the way those kids bought into what he was trying to do, how they responded to him, I think speaks highly of Coach. And again, both coaches were making the transition from middle school to high school. And so Coach Feeney had a little bit of an advantage coaching some of those kids last year
as they grew up. Yeah.
But he still did an unbelievable job with those guys, and they would run through a brick wall for him, and I think that's ultimately the indicator, right there. JV guys, had a rough start to the year, probably lost some games they shouldn't have, but Coach Talton about, I would say mid-January, really made a change with lineup, the lineup and how he was playing guys. And I think they started playing really good basketball. That JV squad has got some guys that'll be on varsity next year, young guys that'll be on varsity next year. And they went on a run. They lost a couple tough, heartbreaking games to some varsity teams that they had on the rope. And so they finished with I believe they finished 500, 11-11. But that they got better as the year went on, and that team was deep, because when we added the freshmen at the end of the freshman season, the depth of that team got deeper and deeper, and then their practices got better and better, and that really allowed them to start playing well. And so that's when you kind of saw them go on a run. I think they had a stretch where they won 4 or 5 in a row, and they got back above 500, and then, lost a tough one to finish their season at Fulton, when Fulton had some guys that played down, that usually don't. So, but both coaches, I'm proud of both coaches from the standpoint of they implemented what they wanted. I'm not necessarily, at least in my first year, a big advocate of having the younger teams mimic the varsity. I told those coaches, I want you coaching your team the way you want to coach it. So don't feel like you have to run the same thing that varsity is running. When it's time for them to come up and learn what we do, that they'll be able to do that because you've coached them in your system. So they'll know how to adapt to a different system, and they'll know how, to adapt to what we're doing at the varsity level. And I think both coaches did that. Both coaches ran similar things, but a little bit different. And you were able to see not only the players get better, but the coaches get better as well, which I really appreciated.
One thing that you've said to me in the past is, as a coach, you have to, and it's been months since you said this, but it's very true. You have to adapt to the personnel you have, who you got on the court as a coach, just as much as those players have to adapt to what the coach is trying to do, right?
Absolutely.
So from those two guys' end to kind of be able to run their own offense and run their own schemes, how have you seen them evolve from a coaching brain perspective?
I think they've both grown tremendously. I even stole a couple things from them, for our varsity guys. I'm like, man, like they're out of bounds were really good. Their out of bounds plays. They had the JV and the freshmen had one that, they scored on almost every time. I'm like, man, we need to put that in, and so, but, I think I'll start with Coach Talton. I think Coach Talton has a really good, a basketball mind. Obviously he played, in high school, had a successful high school career, played at the college level, was a good player. And I think he really benefited from go do what you want to do. Like however you want to run things, however you want to plan your practices, however you want to draw up game plans and things like that. I think that helped him grow. And in turn, when, he's sitting on the bench with me for the varsity games, he's got the confidence when I ask him, hey, like, what do you see? What do you think? Would this work? Does that work? He's got the confidence to be like, hey, yes, I think it'll work because of this, or, I like doing this because of that. And that all comes from his in-game experience. And it's been cool to sit on the bench and watch him coach, and kind of sit back and watch his growth and development. So Coach Talton's done a really good job. I'm excited to see him continue to grow as a head coach for JV. Coach Feeney, I think with Coach, he has the relationship side of things like down, and there's not, you can't find anyone in town that has anything other than greatness to say about, Coach Feeney. And so those kids love him. He had, when he talks, those kids are like laser focused, and so, but at the freshman level, I think you have to simplify things a little bit more, which he did. He did very well. So I'm curious to see how, as he gets more comfortable coaching freshmen, and this 8th grade group coming up is a talented bunch, and so he's going to be able to do more things next year with his group that maybe he couldn't do this year, especially from like a detailed scenario, being able to put things in maybe on the fly, and have his guys go out there and execute it. So I'm excited for him because he's got a group coming up that is like a basketball bunch. And so that should be, for him, that should be exciting.
Thanks for taking a couple of moments to highlight those two coaches, as well as kind of the times you've been on the program. We've only talked about the present, not so much the future. So I'm glad we took a little bit of a moment to do that, especially now that both of their seasons are over.
Right.
Anything I'm forgetting to ask you ahead of tomorrow's game, or anything moving forward in the postseason that you want to hit on or point out?
I just think that I'm proud of our team, our varsity team. Those seniors, winning the other night on senior night the way they did, just I'm so thankful that I was able to coach that group. I hate that, I only get them for 1 year, because from day one, they gave me everything they had, and so I don't know if any of them watch it or listen, but, I just want to reiterate how thankful I am to those seniors. They've made my transition to the high school level a lot easier. And then, the rest of our team, I think what I'm most proud of is that, we started off, the schedule was friendly at the beginning, and, we got some momentum building, ran into a couple good teams, struggled, but still, hung in there, fought, got better. We handled adversity well. Like when we went on that stretch in early February, late January, early February, we lost 4 in a row. Those kids could have very easily been like, okay, well, we're getting close to track and baseball season. It's not meant to be, and so I just tip my cap to all of those guys, all 10 of them, because they never stopped working. They never stopped buying into what we're trying to do. I told him, I said, I made several mistakes throughout the course of the year. And in that stretch, I made mistakes, and, those kids never once, walked away from what we were trying to do. They never once questioned it. They stayed bought in. And I think because of that, we grew, and we're playing our best basketball now because of that. And I think that speaks to the character of those kids. I think it speaks to the character of our seniors. And I think it speaks to the character of our 2 captains, Kyle and Caleb. And so when you have good leadership, and when you have a team that is player led in a lot of ways, and doesn't have to be coach led, I think that's when you can overcome adversity better. You can continue to grow, continue to improve, and hopefully we can keep playing well and play well into March. And so again, I want it for those 4 seniors, but I also want it for all 10 guys, because everyone has played a major part of what we're doing and the success that we've had. And again, I'd be completely remiss if I didn't mention a lot of that has to do with the culture that Coach Martin had in place. I didn't come in and take over for a program that was in shambles. I came over and took over a program that had a very, very strong foundation that had been coached at a high level. And so that made the transition easier for me. But also I think made it easy for them as well.
First-year Kirksville boys head basketball coach Aaron Coombs. Coach Coombs, thanks very much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It has been raining cats and dogs, you guys. One last time, I will mention that by the time of this broadcast Wednesday at noon, Coach Coombs' team will have played Fulton in the opening round of Class 4 District 8 play in Fulton on Tuesday at 6 p.m. And if they win, they will go on to face Mexico Thursday at 6 p.m. All games in the district at Fulton, of course. The Kirksville girls will play Wednesday, so the evening that this broadcast comes out, versus the winner of a Fulton and Hallsville game that will have happened by then. That's Wednesday at 6 p.m. Their district is in Moberly. Should the girls win that, they will play in the district championship Friday versus the winner of Mexico and Moberly, also in Moberly in that Class 4 District 8. Thank you guys very much for joining us this evening. It has been Raining Cats and Dogs. I have been your host, Henry Jansen, sports writer for the Kirksville Daily Express, and we will see you guys next week.